Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ieva. I am a writing coach, a book editor, and a writer. Today I wanted to sit down and do a quick video about this. So this is Project eGIF. It's something that I've been working on for the past 9 years, which I actually found out through Facebook. You know how sometimes they pull up an old photo from like way back in the day, and it's like, oh, on this day you post this status, or on this day you shared this photo. So I got hit with the blast from the past, which was me finishing the first draft of this book during NaNoWriMo, and that was back in 2015. I will insert the photo somewhere here. When I saw that photo on Facebook, it really finally hit me how long it's been taking me to finally finish this book. And I made a decision that 2024 was going to be the year that I was going to just let this project go, in the sense that I was going to stop constantly revising, making changes, adding things, taking things out, because that is one of the most essential parts of the publishing process. You know, you get an idea, you write the book, you revise to an extent, and then at some point it's time for the book to go into another person's hands, aka, in my case, an editor's hands. I thought it'd be interesting to share both sides of the coin, since I edit, but I also write and tell my own stories. So I wanted to tell you a bit more about my book and how it came to be, and how the process has been going, why it's been taking me so long to finish it, what steps I took to finally get to a place where I finished it, and what's going to be happening next. So many years ago, back in 2014/2015, I had a dream. Now, this might sound kind of cliche, but that's actually exactly what happened to me. I know that it's also happened to other authors. More specifically, I heard that Stephanie Meyer, who wrote Twilight, she got the idea to write Twilight based off of a dream. So I guess maybe it happens more often than we think, but that's what happened to me. On a random night, I got a dream. I typically don't remember my dreams, but that morning I woke up and I still had the image of that dream in my head. Now, mind you, the first thing I think about when I get out of bed is breakfast, bagels, tea. Like, that's the only thing that there's space for in my head. But that dream was so vivid that I was like, I have to write this down, because if not, I'll forget it. And I did not want that to happen. So I wrote it down. So I don't know how much I want to reveal, because that scene that I dreamt up is actually the closing scene in book 2 of a 3-book series. Up to that point, I had wanted to write a book, so I was actively trying to come up with ideas and things that I felt were not done before, although I feel like at this point everything's been done. It's really a matter of adding a spin to things and infusing your own experiences and history and personality into stories to make them unique and to make them stand out. So I was filling up notebooks with just random ideas and things that I've seen, things that I've done, things that I was excited about. And there was one thought that I had, one idea that I couldn't shake, and it was basically a power that I always wanted to have, because I'd find myself in these situations where I would just think, if I had this power, it would be so handy. And then once I had that dream, these two things sort of fused together, and I was like, I think I have a story here. And I was really trying to focus on what was happening in class, but I really honestly couldn't. Thank goodness school ended early that day, so I hopped on the train and I rushed home. And then as soon as I got home, I sat at the kitchen table with just a simple notepad, and I wrote everything down. I cannot even describe this feeling. And I'm sure if you're a writer, you probably have had this happen to you, and it's just the most exhilarating, the most fun thing, where you're sitting down and your hand is just moving. Like, I was writing down locations and different side plots and the romance arc. Like, everything was just coming up to the surface after probably 2 to 3 years of trying to come up with a story and just not really finding anything that excited me, and it was happening, and it just felt like a flood, like rushing out of me. And that was the beginnings of Project Ieva. And ever since then, I actively worked on it. It's gone through many different iterations. I am a Gemini, and Geminis tend to be people that kind of like to start new things and explore and dabble, but they're not known for following through and kind of sticking with one thing. And it's possible that maybe I also have this problem because I like to do a million things at once. But this book, Project Ieva, was the one thing that I stuck to. Like I mentioned, it's been 9 years. Now, did I write every single day during those 9 years? No, there were definitely breaks, smaller ones and bigger ones, but I was continuously coming back to the draft and making changes. Some authors can write a book in a month, 6 months, a year. That's amazing. That's kind of what I'm striving for because 9 years has been a lot. However, if you find yourself in a place where you've been working on a single story for an extended amount of time, I want to tell you one thing, and that's that from my own experience, my book, that is definitely going to have to be cut down because the word count is insane for the genre that I'm writing. This book would not be what it is today if I had finished it and thought, well, it is done now 5 years ago, 3 years ago, because the experiences that I've had since I got the initial book idea have shaped me dramatically. And obviously this book is not biographical by any means. It is a young adult urban fantasy or an urban romantasy because there is a heavy romance component to it. But I feel like I did so much growing up during those 9 years, a lot of different major things that shape people into what they eventually become. Without these things, this book would not be what it was meant to be all along. So if you feel like you've been just taking maybe a little bit too long to finally finish the draft, I want to tell you that, yes, obviously getting a book out into the hands of readers is a goal that, I'm sure many of us want to achieve, and you will, but maybe your specific book needs a bit more time to kind of brew and sit and grow and ferment, and I can't think of any other word, but essentially maybe it's not ready because you're not ready, but you will be with time. I guess that's one of the personal takeaways that I've had throughout this experience, and maybe it's something that will inspire you to just keep going. So how did I manage to get myself out of the revision cycle? Because I was definitely stuck in a pretty serious and a pretty tight loop. In June, I sat down and I thought, what do I want to accomplish in 2025? And one of the things was I wanted to finally start the querying process. As daunting as it is, I want to just get into it. I want to start it. I want to see what response my book gets from potential agents. But to be able to do that, I knew that I wanted to, well, first of all, I had to finish the book. I had the beginning, I had the end, and then I was missing about, I want to say maybe 10 chapters or so in the middle, because middles are very tough for me to write personally. I knew exactly what was going to happen because I am a plotter, so I had an outline, but actually sitting down to write those chapters out, I was just feeling blocked in some way. I guess maybe I was afraid to finally finish it because then, it would just be done and I would have to face maybe not liking things, maybe things not looking on paper how they looked in my head, just maybe a bit of fear, a bit of hesitation there. So I knew that I would have to get it done. I would have to complete those 10 chapters. I would have to go through the entire book and make some other changes, tighten certain things that I just knew needed some tightening. I'm not just saying this because I'm an editor myself, but I knew that I've been so close to this book for 9 years, and I simply could not have a purely objective outlook on it. Could not be purely objective when it came to knowing what's working, knowing what's not working, knowing what changes could potentially be made to make the story stronger. So I knew all along that I was going to hire an editor for myself. And even though I've loved working on this book kind of with no deadline, because it gave me the freedom to really play and explore and take my time, I knew that if I wanted to finally finish it, I would have to give myself a deadline. I made the decision to hire a developmental editor. I've been following them for a while. I connected with them and they just seemed very professional, very sweet, very excited about this project. And yeah, I signed a contract and then it was go time. And I have my little notes here. So I reached out to the editor on June 6th and I was supposed to submit my book to them on August 26th. So I gave myself about 3 months to finish those 10 chapters, to go back, to make the changes, to clean the manuscript up and send it off and just breathe. So yeah, I spent the 3 months doing research because the book is set in New York City. So I went back to some of the places that I talk about in the book. I really immersed myself. I filmed a vlog all about it. And it was just a lot of sitting down, writing at lunch, at work, because I do work full time, at home, after work. You know, my eyes would be just bloodshot and dry and tired, and I'd be like, I have to keep going. I think I, at some point, even gave myself what I think was maybe temporary carpal tunnel. So that was a fun time, but I still pushed through it, and I managed to complete the book and make the deadline. So one of my biggest struggles with the book and just with writing in general is that I am very much an overwriter. So some authors get an idea, they write the book, and it is just too short. So they have to go back and expand upon some scenes and just some, aspects of the book. I expand a lot, or maybe I just include a lot of events that I think need to be there. But the thing about publishing, especially when you're a debut author, which is what I would be if I got an agent and got a publishing deal down the line, is that the book typically should not be outside of the word count that is attributed to a specific genre. So in my case, it's young adult, it is fantasy, romantasy, it kind of falls within that genre. So my book, and I will tell you the exact number, well, my book started off as being around 190K, which is obscene. That would probably work if this was an epic fantasy, which it's not. It is a scary number, especially when I knew that I would have to be cutting things out, and I just did not want to part with any major aspects of the book. Obviously, cutting down words that just don't have any purpose, that's fine, but I did not want to have to cut out major secondary plot lines and things like that. So that worried me. So the word count that I committed to when I first reached out to my editor was 150K, because that's pretty much the max that they edit for the price that they gave me. That was my goal, which would have meant that I would have had to cut out about 40,000 words, and that's pretty much a book right there. So that was kind of a scary prospect. And as I was editing and rewriting sections and nearing my due date, I realized that there's just no way that I was going to be able to cut it down to the 150. So me being an overwriter was something that I mentioned to my editor. I immediately reached out and I was like, listen, I simply cannot cut it down more. Luckily, she was fine with taking a longer manuscript for a bit more money, which is completely understandable because a longer manuscript means having to spend more time reading it. So I completely get that. In the end, on August 26th, I submitted a manuscript that was 770 words long. So it is currently with the editor. I'm supposed to be getting my feedback on September 16th, which is quickly approaching. So now that I've talked about my book, how it came to be, what the writing process was like. I want to close this video off on talking a bit about receiving feedback and also my next steps. So up to this point, I've always been on the other side of things. I was the one providing feedback to my author clients. And you know, when you're in school, if you're studying publishing, if you're getting a master's, a certificate, or if you're taking classes online, one of the biggest components of editing and working with clients is that you have to know how to properly approach providing feedback, because books are very personal. Even if the book is not about you, if it's not an autobiography, or if the book is not heavily based on your own true life story, the writing, the ideas, and the creativity still come from you. And while editors must be completely honest and completely open with the feedback, because, you know, if you read a manuscript and you spot issues and you are afraid of hurting somebody's feelings and you don't make them known, you don't bring attention to them, it does a disservice to the person who hired you. So I'm always big on being completely transparent and honest. However, it is very important to be sensitive and to be tactful in how you provide the feedback. I'm a sensitive person, so I kind of put myself in their shoes and I kind of think of how I would want to receive feedback myself, and I just do that. That being said, I am now on the other side of this whole writing journey where I'm going to be the one receiving feedback. And the thing is that even though I've been writing this book for 9 years, my editor is the first person who is going to be, or who actually is now, seeing it for the first time. And it is a little scary, not because I don't trust her, because I do. She seems like a lovely, lovely person, but there is sort of this maybe even separation anxiety when you've been with a story for so long and it came out of you and now you just have to hand it off to someone else. And that's been interesting to kind of sit with and explore within myself. The conclusion that I came to was that feedback is necessary. Getting the book into other people's hands, opening myself up as an author to my target audience, to professional people's opinions, is an integral part of the book becoming the best that it can be. So yes, it is scary, it is nerve-wracking, but I feel like if I, and if potentially you, if you're, you know, dealing with a fear of getting feedback, if we keep our books just tight to our chests, we don't let them out of our sight, we don't let them be critiqued in a constructive way, I think that would do a disservice to the stories that we're telling. And that's what I've been telling myself as a way to embrace this next step in this journey. I'm sure when you've, you know, written a few books and you've been through this process a few times, it gets easier. But as a debut author, as somebody who's never, you know, shared my writing in this book specifically with anyone else, you know, there are new feelings to feel and there is a learning curve to kind of embrace, but I've decided to just go with it, and also to share the process with all of you. I love watching those videos on YouTube about people editing and working with editors and querying. It's just so satisfying to watch and to see how they navigate everything. So I want this channel to be that space for you. So what's next for me and for Project eGIF? So as I mentioned, on September 16th, I'm getting my feedback back from the editor. I'll probably take a month after that to go through it, to digest it, to sit with it. It is typically not recommended to query at the end of the year because people go on vacation, projects are wrapping up. So my plan, at least for now, is to begin the query process in the beginning of 2025, and I plan to bring you along with me. I want to talk about the process of writing the query letter, which is something that I probably will have some issues with because, again, I like to expand, and the query letter is all about giving the potential agent a taste of what the story is in a very, very, very condensed way, and making it very appealing and attractive within one singular page, which is probably going to be kind of tough for me to do. So I want to show you what that process is like. I want to share how I am researching potential literary agents and also talk about the feedback that I get from the agents and show you how I handle all of the rejection letters flooding in, because I'm sure, because it happens to everyone, I'm sure I'm gonna get quite a good amount of those. So even though this was not an educational video, it was more so of a story time, I hope that inspired you to keep writing and to keep on persevering. I'm also transitioning my personal Instagram to an author Instagram, so if you want to give me a follow and see what I'm up to on a daily basis, the link to that is down below as well. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, happy writing.